Welcome back to the Glow Up Girl podcast. I'm Kyra. Welcome, Lauren, to the show. Hi,
Thank
Lauren.
Hello. Thank you so much for having me, Kyra. I'm excited to have this conversation this morning.
Yes, me too. So, why don't we get started by having you tell the audience listening or watching who you are and what you do?
Oh, I
Lauren's like, that's a loaded question, girl.
totally is. It totally is because I think I have this challenge, as you know, in the marketing world. It's easier to sell one thing, right? You're like,
Yes.
this is my thing. I'm one of those multi-passionate entrepreneurs. I love so many things and have so many
Mhm,
interests. But I love online business,
mhm,
digital entrepreneurship. I also have a passion to support folks in naming their purpose.
mhm,
And I also help online entrepreneurs get their websites found through SEO
mhm.
and having their websites found in Google with organic search. And so I do that through a variety of different ways, but my primary thing that I love to do is to teach online courses. I love the process of creating a curriculum, packaging it, giving
Mhm.
people a whole arc of a learning journey in a
Uh-huh.
single, like, here, this is for you. I love empowering others, but I also do consulting work and
Mhm.
have clients that I manage their websites as well. So I do it in a number of different ways. And I have a new podcast coming out as well. So we're going to be pod buddies.
Yes, awesome. What's the name of your new pod?
The Digital Entrepreneurs Toolkit.
Oh, I love this because
Thank
we
you.
need more. We need more of that.
Yeah.
And I think what's really cool because obviously if you're doing this means you're going to be giving people tools to empower themselves. And so many people, just say, pay me and I'll
Right.
yeah.
Yes. Yeah. We're going to really focus on sharing entrepreneurial success stories told from the trenches and hear
Oh,
what everybody's little
mhm.
tips and hacks and like have their inspirational journey, but like they're not so far ahead of us that it feels unattainable where they're like,
Yeah.
I'm making 1 million a month in revenue. And you're going, what? I'm
Thank you.
That's lovely. What about the rest of us? Not everybody wants
Exactly.
that business, you know?
Right. I love that so much, Lauren. I
Thank
think it's going
you.
to be so helpful. When is this launching?
August 1st.
Awesome. Oh yeah, I
Yeah,
can't wait.
2024. What year are we? 20,
Yeah.
what is the date anyway?
Right. Yeah, I live in a world where I'm like, what is this?
Yes,
Yeah.
same.
Well, definitely when this launches, make sure you tag us in Glow Up Girl so we can help you promote. Yeah.
Very much. I
Yeah.
appreciate
And
that.
I'd love to also put this, like, I do a monthly newsletter to my
Wonderful.
community, and I'd love to have tools in there so people can, especially entrepreneurs. Like you said, it's really tough. And I know, and forgive us because I'm just flowing with the conversation right now
Let's do it.
well, I think it's so important because what happens is a lot of people are like just entrepreneurs. A lot of people are workingpreneurs and they're
Mhm.
trying to figure out how to. And a lot of people are paying for their businesses and things that they need themselves. So a lot of times it's not quite as easy to like you know the things you need to do, like
Mhm.
having a consultant, having someone to help you to grow the business is like that might be the thing people want to do, but they're like, can I afford it? And I feel
Right.
like this resource that you're going to be for entrepreneurs is just so needed.
Thank you so much. I feel that sort of predatory lean with some folks, that like just believe and will manifest it and also pay me all this money to
Mhm.
help you do it. And you go, well, but hold on, like where's the income? And
Yeah.
so, I think some people who are like side hustling, maybe they have more cash
Mhm.
flow to support something like that to get them off the blocks more quickly.
Mhm.
But I have built and sold an online business. I started in online education with an
Mhm.
ACT and SAT prep company. And so I've done this. I've done the full arc from
Mhm.
inception, course creation, and I did it all myself. I didn't hire anybody except the folks who built my website.
Mhm.
Um, because at that time, like integrations weren't solid. And I was like, well, I'm going to
Right.
be processing people's payments. So I will pay for that.
Of
Um,
course.
I had an investment from my parents to make it happen.
Yeah.
And my husband had a full time income and supported us. So,
Yeah.
I had a lot of flexibility and freedom to like
Mhm.
play in the sandbox and learn it all myself. And so
Mm-hmm.
now I can edit my own podcast. I can, do all these things all myself. And now with this second round, there's an ease to it because I know the roadmap, and I want to
Mm-hmm.
start sharing that roadmap with folks
Yeah.
and saying like, hey, if you want to pay, this is what it will cost.
Mm-hmm.
If you would rather learn it so that you can
Mm-hmm.
do it for yourself for a while until you can offload it, then
Yeah.
this is the other path. And
Yeah.
so I think just really empowering people with a message of like, you can do it. Here are resources to help you
Mm-hmm.
do that.
Mm-hmm.
Um, is really important because I think being a frugal solopreneur is
Yeah.
something that is underrated because there's not much money to be made for the big guy
Yeah.
if you're empowering others. Not to,
Exactly.
and not to say that consulting is a bad thing.
Of course.
It's
Yeah.
just not everybody's budget can actually
Yeah.
handle it. And if you start looking at what you have to pay to
Mm-hmm.
go from zero to launch,
Mm-hmm.
like it's not nothing. Like if you want
Yeah.
to empower others, if you say like I want to be an online entrepreneur, but I don't want to learn video editing, and I also don't want to write blog posts, I want to have a copywriter, and also I don't want to manage a website, like okay,
Right.
you need considerable funds to make that happen.
Mm-hmm.
Like if
Yeah.
you want to be
Because
sitting king
yeah,
of the hill,
you gotta get
great.
an editor, you gotta get a writer, you've got to find somebody, like you said, to manage the site. So yeah, you've already got three different vendors and
Yeah.
expenses. But I like that because and I think it's like cool when you can learn those things on your own
Yeah.
because it is time, like it's time consuming, because as
Yeah.
someone who has edited their own podcast before, I was able to like get someone to help me. Like I was like, oh God. And the
Yeah.
reason I did let it go is because I have a full-time job. So it was hard. Like I couldn't balance, like I had to spend my time on the things that can help me grow the business versus like some of them were like administrative, like those type of tasks. And I was like, and it took me a really long time to like give it up because I was just
Yeah.
like, no, I can't afford it, I cannot afford it.
Yeah.
But then I was like, okay, but it's also like peace of mind and I'm getting some time back and I can
Yeah.
focus on making the show better. I can work on the planning and the strategy side of the show, and I can let somebody who's really great at this help me. So yeah, I love
I
that.
love it. Yeah. And it ebbs and flows, right? There's like growth in
Exactly.
it
Yeah.
but I do think, like I always say with my SEO course, I'm like, you either need to understand this so you can do it yourself or understand it well enough to quarterback
Mm-hmm.
somebody who is doing it for you. Like if you come in and you're like, I don't know anything, will you help me? Like
Yeah.
you need to really trust the other person
Mm-hmm.
because there are a lot of people in particularly the SEO space
Mm-hmm.
that will take your money and run. And they're like, I got you traffic. Sorry it didn't turn into like higher profit for
Right.
you.
Yeah. Sorry, it was no
Bye.
actual leads. Yeah.
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 Yeah. Like it's a
Yeah.
more comprehensive strategy than most people own in the space. And so
Yeah.
I think it's really important to really be thoughtful about
Mm-hmm.
where you're hiring out,
Yeah.
what you're hiring out, and
Yeah.
and know that it's like one at a time, right? It's
Yeah.
not like
And
hiring a full suite of services.
And the other thing, I think the reason why your show is going to be so powerful as a tool is just what you said, like understanding something about what it is. So using SEO as an example. I
Mhm.
mean, how many times did any of us that have businesses that are on LinkedIn, I mean, how many emails do you receive of people saying, let me help you? Oh, not to mention YouTube, like the number of people who I've pulled your numbers and you need to do like, no, you need to leave me alone. Like, no, you need to stop and
Yes.
understand that. And also asking people for like, references and, like, let me see your work. What have you accomplished? And then when you
Mhm.
ask those questions, then it's like, well, I mean, I'm just starting. It's always, I'm just starting with someone. And it's like, it's okay if somebody is just but be truthful about the fact that you're just starting. Don't just come and try to get my money and then we're both like walking together. If you were truthful and say, hey, you know what, I'm just starting out, I think there's some potential, I'd like to partner with you, let's just
Yeah.
have a conversation. So it's also just being able to like identify, like you said, like the people who maybe don't have your best interest at heart.
Yeah.
Yeah. Awesome.
100%.
All right. So now we're gonna transition into, well, something like that's a very important thing to talk about. And that's what I like about, the guests I have on this show is that it's real and tangible like tips. Like just
Hmm.
in that little bit of time, what we talked about, I think you would probably help so many people. And now we know we have a resource coming
Yeah.
that will help us. But one other thing, another part of what you do to help people and entrepreneurs is something we love talking about here. And it very much aligns to the mission of Gyrl. It's talking about purpose
Mm.
and helping people to find that true purpose and understand how it aligns with their values and what it is that they want to do with their lives. So, can you talk about your journey to your true purpose?
Yes. Um, the I am infinitely grateful to the tiny little human being I gave birth to because she taught me so much and continues to. She's 6. She knows everything. It's amazing. Um, but I'm a chameleon and a people pleaser, and I had no idea how exhausted I was, because I would sort of shapeshift based on
Mhm,
like who I was with. And it wasn't in like a duplicitous kind of way. It wasn't like I was
mhm,
playing the room or anything, but like as a former actress as well, like that's in my background. I have my theater degree. I would like step into my parents' home and shift into role of daughter. I
mhm,
would be with a friend and sort of sidestep into role of friend. And they were all me, but they all felt a little like outside of me. Like I was,
mhm,
like I said, stepping into a role. Um, Entrepreneur, right? My business was my baby first.
mhm,
Um, Partner, my husband, that sort of thing. And so I found when I had my daughter that suddenly this like all encompassing role of mother that like goes with you everywhere.
mhm,
Like it never goes away. I was like, why do I feel so like overwhelmed and just like not even in my body anymore? Because
mhm.
I was constantly focused on others and never really centered in myself.
Right.
And so that shapeshifting became more apparent and was, frankly, totally draining. And I realized that, through the process of just being a people pleaser and a chameleon, I'd kind of lost touch with myself and like that that really genuine, strong, authentic connection to who
Mhm,
I was. And so the interesting thing is that because I was working in the college admission space, I saw sort of this alignment, right? Like I had constantly oriented to the outside,
mhm,
and I was a really academic kid. So, like, I was looking at college admissions from a very early age, having those conversations. What do I have to do to make it happen, right? Like, what
mhm,
hoops do I have to jump through? And hitting the mark every time. But, like, is that
mhm,
really what served me? Um, and so I also noticed that because I was at this like new kind of critical transition point, and my students behind me were at that first one, I was like, uh-oh, like we're actually in the same place,
mhm,
just at different points of our life. And I realized that I felt kind of untethered to my sense of self because I didn't have a sense of like what my purpose was.
mhm,
Um, and that I found I had a lot of these students who didn't know what to write about in their personal statements for college
mhm,
because they were like, I've done nothing. I just like tried to get into college and now they want me to tell them why. And I have
mhm,
no idea. Like other
mhm.
people told me to, and now I'm here and I don't know what to do.
Right.
Um, so I created Big Y Life, which is a 8 module. You can do it over weeks or, every 2 weeks or whatever curriculum to help them identify a really resonant purpose statement.
Mhm,
And so I developed it for myself, I developed it for my students, and
mhm,
it really like blossomed into this beautiful experience where we instead of looking outward for our cues, we turn inward and we do
mhm,
like Liz Gilbert talks about it in Big Magic. We like mine for the treasures that are already existing inside of
mm.
us.
I love that.
Yeah.
That is awesome. So at the time, so when you were doing this, were you also, so you were building your own business at the
Mhm.
same time? And how did you discovering your purpose, how did that change your business?
Well, I realized I had the wrong business. I was like, oh, I built myself my own little life raft and realized I was in the wrong ocean. Um, it
Mhm,
was it was kind of crazy. So I developed this 2020. So it was December of 2020. So we'd been at home for
mhm.
I don't know many months. I had my daughter, and then also my son was born 3 months before the pandemic.
Oh wow.
Was fun. So we were home. We had it real like easy in that my husband is carries our, full-time
Hmm.
income. He could work from home. He has a job that's very easy to do that. So we were very lucky.
Hmm.
Um, but it was a pandemic, like it was still stressful, but we had a
Hmm.
lot of blessings in that time, to be
Hmm.
completely honest. Like
Hmm.
he got to see a lot of my sons first because he was home,
Right.
and
Yeah.
I was the one who'd missed them because I was off with the 2-year-old. Um, but it's one of those things that like you sit too long in your house and like you start crawling the walls. And so out of that and out of like this need, I was like, the college admission space is messed up. Like
Hmm.
I was like really tired because through the pandemic, the test makers and the colleges were like at odds and like talking against one another. And clearly
Hmm.
their own self interests were ahead of students' interests and
Hmm.
families' interests. And it was really tricky to navigate those waters. So I basically like stopped all marketing that I was doing because I was like,
Hmm.
I can't tell you what's happening because it's a pandemic and the colleges and the test makers are not being honest about that. So, what can I do in this sort of fallow season? What
Hmm.
can I create that could still be useful?
Hmm.
I believe in the power of the tests. I think they have a purpose.
Hmm.
I think they've been blown out of proportion in college messaging. But like, what can I do that is going to help kids and not just help them today, but also help set them on a path for tomorrow. And so that was sort of what Big Y Life was born out of, this like
Hmm.
downtime and my brain not being able to like just sit there. And so that's what I developed out of that. But it was so out of alignment with ACT, SAT, brass tacks. Like the people
Hmm.
who came to me for that were not the right audience for Big Y Life. And in doing it,
Yeah.
I was like, oh, I needed this too. And I think a lot of my friends do. And
Hmm.
also, like, I think there are a lot of people in career transition who need it, or
Hmm.
who entrepreneurs who are so like wishy washy in their messaging, like they
Hmm.
don't know what they stand for.
Hmm.
And so this is like a great way for like all of us to come together and go, this is the work of being human.
Hmm.
So let's name our purpose here and move forward together. So I pulled it out of the company before I
Hmm.
sold it. But yeah,
Yes.
naming my purpose is to help others actualize their unrealized potential.
I love that.
And I think I did that with my first company,
Hmm.
but it wasn't in a space that I felt comfortable being in anymore. And
Hmm.
so I was like, well, I love entrepreneurs and I love supporting them. SEO was absolutely the thing that helped
Hmm.
um, that first company get off the ground. And so I have a skill that I can teach in this
Hmm.
other space and help more entrepreneurs reach more people. And that's in alignment with my purpose.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
I was like, okay, it's time to sell this one and move everything over under my
Yeah.
own moniker.
Yeah. I like I love this story because I think a lot of, first of all, if I can rewind back to when
Yeah.
you opened with who you are and what you do. And I have to tell you, like, your story like resonates so much to me because I'm also one of those people where I'm like, oh, I like doing this thing. I like doing this thing. And then it's like, how do you combine all those things? And
Yeah.
or how do you put those things on your site where it's like people can get a full understanding of like how you could help them.
Yeah.
And I think a lot of entrepreneurs, there are a lot of people out there because it's funny because sometimes you feel like almost like the unicorn because you're like, oh
Hmm.
man, like, is there anybody else out there like me that like wants to do a lot of things, but you don't know like how to make it all like work together. And I think
Yeah.
this is really good because I feel like there are way more people out there that are like us.
Yeah.
And hearing you talk about your story and just and sometimes just and the fact that it's like okay to be that way because
Yes.
society tells us that, the world will tell you you have to pick one thing. You have
Hmm.
to pick the one thing. You have to be really good at the one thing. And, I don't personally come from a background of like just doing one thing. Like, I mean, even as I look across my professional career, like I just always picked up skills, like,
Yeah.
and then now like I find when I work within my team, within my marketing team, everybody sort of has a niche. It's like,
Sure.
oh, I do this thing and I'm really good at this. And then it's like, but on the team, I'm like the one person that has like all the general marketing experience
Mm.
and can touch all the things. I'm like, oh, I wish that the world didn't go in a direction to where people felt like they could just learn one thing and just be like, oh, I do this thing. Cause I'm like, it's so broad, like the opportunities to be able to like do a lot of stuff.
Yeah. So what you're bringing up is something that I struggle with as well, obviously. But, I have this notion, like I say I do SEO because people know what it is and they can latch onto it and they know they need it,
That's smart.
whether they want to do it or not, they
Yeah.
know they need it. I think your messaging can be so much clearer if you say the one thing.
Yep.
But what I think, specialists are great in certain realms. Like if you
Mhm.
want to be a neurosurgeon, please be a specialist. Like
Right.
really know the brain,
Mhm.
right? Do your one thing so great. Um, if you want to be like a particular kind of engineer, like yes, I want you to be a specialist. But I think in all this talk about riches are in the niches and specialties, we lose the connective tissue. And this is
Mhm.
where, back to what I said at the beginning with like a lot of
Mhm.
SEOs, they're like, I got you traffic, that was my job.
Mhm.
No, like when
Yeah.
people say SEO, they don't want traffic. They want, unless they're monetizing just through like paid ads,
Mhm.
which like, hi, now with like AI and the whole
Mhm.
everything going on with that, like that's not a sure thing either. But what we really want is to get leads, to make sales,
Mhm.
to boost our bottom line, right?
Mhm.
To serve people well and be compensated for it.
Mhm.
And so you kind of need a generalist to help you with that. You need a generalist with enough knowledge of the specific to then make the whole arc of it work. And that's why
Yes.
I love courses, because sound bites don't help you make
Mhm.
true transformation. Like they can
Yeah.
inspire and get you moving in the right direction, but I always talk about like the pedagogical arc, like what it takes to learn. It is
Mhm.
a process. And like with Big Y Life, where I help people name their purpose, naming your
Mhm.
purpose is segments 4 and 5 of an 8 module course,
Mhm.
because you first have to dig deep, right? You have to uncover all the stuff that's like
Mhm.
layering on top of what your true purpose is so you can find that gem. 4 and 5 is where we polish it up. We, cut facets into
Mhm.
it, make it nice and sparkly and resonant for us.
Mhm.
And then there's 3 more modules, because having your purpose doesn't matter if you don't move it into action.
Mhm.
And
Yeah.
so sections 6, 7, and 8 is all about how do we make this real in our life? How
Mhm.
do we make this, to use the word, manifest in our life? How
Mhm.
do we bring it out into the light and let it shine?
Yes.
And I think that's when you look at this purpose work, it is so layered and nuanced. And I think, it's why
Mhm.
you can come back to it many times on a
Mhm.
podcast, hear it from many different people, and
Right.
something will resonate with somebody from one person. It can be the exact same sentence, but the way
Right.
it's framed, the
Mhm.
way you share it, it changes how it's received and allows you to
Mhm.
be more open to it. But yeah, to your point, I do think there is power in the connective tissue between the
Right.
silos,
Yeah.
right? And for
Yes.
people who can see that and help people with that and share that,
Mhm.
that is where the greatest growth happens.
Mhm. Yeah. I like that. Thank you. Oh, you just dropping
Absolutely.
nuggets this morning. um, so what's a mistake that you see people make when they are trying to name their purpose?
So the biggest mistake I see is people
Mhm.
doing what we are kind of just talking about, which is
Okay.
siloing
Yeah.
it and
Yeah.
saying, my purpose as a mother is this, and my purpose as this is this, and in my
Mhm.
business, it's this, and with
Yeah.
this person, it's this. That is so fragmenting. And I think
Yeah.
all of us, like, our attentions are being pulled in 38
Mhm.
different directions all day long. 38 is probably a low number. If it's
Yeah.
just 38, we feel calm, you know? So I really love a purpose statement that is singular.
Mhm.
I help others actualize their unrealized potential. I do that by helping when I'm working on someone's website. I am helping my friends who have engaged with me
Mhm.
to elevate their presence in Google such that they can share their message with a greater audience. I'm helping them bring to the light their gifts
Mhm.
through the specific channel of SEO when I'm doing my consulting work.
Mhm.
When I'm homeschooling my kids, I am an archaeologist. I am uncovering what exists in them and helping lean into
Mhm.
their strengths and bolster up their weaknesses and show them the world in a way that allows them to become
Mhm.
their fullest expression of themselves. I am helping others actualize their unrealized potential.
Mhm. Mhm.
And while I absolutely can take a rest and sit on, go to a cafe with my girlfriends and, have a glass of wine or whatever, and while I can do that, a lot of times if a friend is struggling, I'm the person they come to
Mhm.
because I help others see what already exists and
Yeah.
then I help empower them or give them tools or resources. If you ever wanted a friend who said, "You have a problem, I got a book for that." I'm that girl. You
Yeah.
know, I am that person who's like, "Oh, I read this thing. Maybe this would be helpful for you." Like
Mhm.
that is just who I
Mhm.
am. And the
Mhm.
more I live in that in all
Mhm.
domains, it doesn't mean I don't take a break. It doesn't mean that I don't step outside of my purpose and just like knit a sweater or something. But
Mhm.
like the more that I live in that, the more I feel anchored and tethered to who Lauren is, not who
Mhm.
Lauren as mother, Lauren as friend, Lauren as,
Mhm.
business owner is. And so it
Yeah.
really helps come
It's a
helps me come
connected.
home to me,
Yeah. And it's
really.
like a connected thread, like
Totally.
through
Yeah.
all the relationships that you are that you have.
Yes.
Yeah. It's like your
Yeah.
the common goal, the common theme and all that is that you are helping people to discover like the gem inside of them.
Yes.
And you're
Yes.
and helping them to be able to share that. So it's like, but it happens in every aspect. I like how you walk through the different aspects of your life and that, yeah, I love that. Um,
Thank you.
okay, so why does it feel daunting for people? Because somebody might be out there saying, I hear you, Lauren. I hear you, girl. But I'm trying to figure out my purpose. And I mean, I start and then I just feel like I'm overwhelmed. I don't know what to do.
And I think that overwhelm comes from queuing to things that are outside you, thinking that for your purpose to exist, you need more. You've got to consume more. You've got to go outside and find
Mhm.
resources and do something extra.
Mhm.
I think that when you hit on the right purpose, it is totally in flow with your favorite things to do anyway.
Mhm.
Right? Like I said before, it's a coming home to yourself. And
Mhm.
it is rooted in grounding and it's as natural as breathing.
Mhm.
And the work to get there, you do need a little bit of a guide. So, like, for example, one of our first things that we do is we interview people in our lives in the course.
Mhm.
The first module is all about seeing how the world sees you. Because sometimes we are out of ourselves because we're queuing to those
Mhm.
expectations, often that
Mhm.
are unspoken. And it's not nefarious. It's just, our parents have a perception of us. Our kids have a perception of us. Our
Mhm.
partners have a perception as
Mhm.
coworkers, that sort of thing. This is who I am. And I'm like showing up shiny for it.
Yeah.
And I think it's really important to acknowledge the box we are being put in by others because it does
Mhm.
sort of nudge us and that can help us. It can actually harm us as we
Mhm.
feel kind of off kilter because we're like meeting
Mhm.
those unspoken expectations.
Mhm.
So we do that first because that uncovering and then like ruminating on like what did we love when we didn't know there were expectations? Like what did we just settle into and enjoy when
Mhm.
we were kids? Like what already exists? What's the easiest thing for us to do? And sometimes like there's this sense of like it's got to be hard, we got to be diligent and
Mhm.
do the
Mhm.
thing that's not quite in our wheelhouse.
Yeah.
you and I are generalists. Like we're connective tissue.
Hmm.
That's not the lens of a lot of people. Some people are siloed. They like that single, like, you know,
Hmm.
inch wide, mile deep. We're mile wide, inch deep, right? We're
Yeah.
not specialists, but we can help quarterback specialists and bring
Hmm.
people together or show how all the things hang together.
Yes.
And
Yes.
so really that process though of like starting to like slough off the layers, you can see it's not about like, and here's this other thing you're going to do and here's this other thing you're to do. It's like no, it's about like actually coming back and like going
Hmm.
inward a little bit.
Hmm.
And so I
Yeah.
think that it feels really really daunting when you're like I have to have 38 purpose statements and also I have to do in relation to those
Yeah.
38 purpose statements I now have, oh I've got to do math, 76, you know, new tasks, right? Two
Yeah.
for each, and then I will be complete. Like, no,
Yeah.
you're complete, you're worthy. Like,
Hmm.
you already have a purpose. It's inside of you. So we just have to mine down and figure it, give some like cues to help you find it, but it already lives in your body.
Exactly. Oh man, I love that. First of all, I just want to tell you all listening or watching, like Lauren is dropping nuggets. It's 9:54-ish where I am, and it's 6. It is like 6. It's 6. She's been
Yeah.
talking to us, dropping nuggets at 6 o'clock a.m. on the West Coast.
Yep.
And I mean,
I love this stuff. It lights me up. It's not a big deal to wake up early if I get to talk about this. It's just
yeah.
such an honor.
I'm like, and she hasn't missed a beat. She is over there talking like she's been up like for like 5 hours.
I do have espresso to help me. I'm in Seattle, so you have to drink espresso.
Yeah. So if someone is listening or watching and they're thinking to themselves, I'd like to get started on this journey, what's the first thing that you recommend someone do?
It's kind of counterintuitive.
Mhm.
Um, you know, it feels like a forward motion, right? I'm going to move towards my purpose. But remember, it
Mhm.
already lives inside you. So what you have to do
Mhm.
is stop and plant your
Mhm.
feet for a minute. The first step is to like, you know, do that interview, see like what boxes you're conforming
Mhm.
yourself to. But really, in terms of like what you can do yourself, you really have to tap in and root in to your values.
Mhm.
And one thing, I got this note from a friend who went through my course. Um, he was like, Lauren, he's been in the college admission space. He like does a lot of like recruitment and career development. So he's been around tools a lot. So
Mhm.
things like, you know, personality assessments, all those things. And I leverage those as a part of the course. You know, they can be
Mhm.
useful tools.
Mhm.
Um, but I have everybody do a values exercise and I make a distinction in the values exercise. And I say, so we go through and we say like just name your values. Like I give them a list of 111 and I'm like, okay, pick your values, like pick what feels resonant to you.
Mhm.
And you go through and that's pass one. And then I have you go through and say, okay, which of these are currently embodied values and which of these are aspirational?
Mhm. Mhm.
Because I think so often we have this future view of ourselves. Like we're all fixing to get ready to
Mhm.
be the perfect person that we wish to be. And there's
Mhm.
always growth. I'm not saying there's not, but I think there's an anxiety in that when you're like, my value is X, and you're like, but I'm not living it. Like, like I always give this example of like generosity. Like, if generosity is a value, how are you living it out? Right. So to me, like if I say generosity, I'm like, am I making donations to my favorite
Mhm.
causes? Am I doing, you know, volunteer work? Am I taking care of my neighbors when they're sick? Am I like bringing them a
Mhm.
fresh baked loaf of bread? You know, am I doing these things to be
Mhm.
generous of spirit, generous with my time, generous with my resources?
Right.
And if you're not doing those things, and or however generosity would manifest for you, then are you generous or do you wish to be generous? Is it
Right.
like when I have
Mhm.
the funds, then I'll be generous. Then I'll start donating.
Right. Right.
And I think we can't escape the gap. Our brain knows, even if like, and our body knows, like, even if we say, like, I'm generous and we think we're living it, if there is a delta between what we're doing and what we're saying, then we start to get anxious about it. We can go, oh no, like that's actually not a currently held value. And
Mhm.
so I think it's really important to like pull it apart. And it's not without judgment, right? Like a lot of us are really strapped for time, money, and resources. Like,
Hmm.
this is not a commentary on how generous or not you are. It's just
Right.
saying, if this is your value, is it really? Or is
Hmm.
it future Lauren's value?
Right. Right. Yeah. That
And
makes sense.
so, really rooting into what is rather than what you'd like to see,
Hmm.
because that is more interesting.
Hmm.
What you are currently living is more interesting and more honest.
Hmm.
And that will lead you in potentially a completely different direction. And
Hmm.
so, your purpose statement, I think about like the compass, like a compass.
Hmm.
Your true north magnetic pole for that needle of your purpose statement is two things. It's the values you currently hold, and it is the vision you hold for your future.
Hmm.
But you have to know the difference. And so, really parsing whether a value is aspirational or currently held
Hmm.
is important.
Hmm. Awesome. So, Lauren, out of respect for your time and the fact that you're already up early, do you have like 10 more minutes to spend with me?
Yeah. Oh, I'm
Awesome.
good. My kids are still asleep. Everybody's still asleep. I'm good.
Awesome. Yeah, I think that is so good. And such, and it's just, it's real and it's tangible. It's like
Yeah.
something people hear and they can actually do. It's not
Yes.
like, and you can look at it. Well, and like you said, like you might look at it and you may make a pivot
Yeah.
because it's like, oh yeah, like I said, that's a value of mine. But I think that's really important to look at, like, are you living it today? And that's
Yeah.
so key. That's key because
Yes.
I think a lot of times some people talk purpose and they are truly like aspirational.
Yeah.
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 And not everybody wants a big flashy life, too. I think that
Yeah.
that's something that, one of the lies of social media, I think, is that we're all a brand and we all have to be like on all the time, curated. And like, sure,
Mhm.
yeah, you don't want to like post pictures of you and like your depression or whatever. Like,
Yeah.
if it's honest and that is part of like what you wish
Yeah.
to share in that space,
Yeah.
fine. But like, we have this like notion that everything has to be perfect, everything has to
Mhm.
be polished. And
Mhm.
I don't think it's true. And I
Yeah.
also don't think everybody needs to have a life on stage, right? Not all of us are, Broadway actors or what have you.
Mhm.
Like,
Yeah.
maybe your purpose guides you towards a quieter life.
Mhm.
Maybe what you really value will nudge the needle to a life that's more oriented in just like my purpose is to maintain a beautiful garden that
Mhm.
brings joy. Like I value
Mhm.
joy, and this is a way that I can express my value of
Mhm.
loving beauty, right?
Yeah.
Really valuing and prizing beauty,
Mhm. Mhm.
or if I do want to have that like incredible like go-getter life, something's got to give. If I have to choose between pouring into a client and doing the dishes, guess which
Mhm.
one's in my purpose?
Right.
Like, and it's not an avoidance tactic for the dishes, but like my house is going to look a certain way if I'm committed to solopreneuring
Mhm.
a particular way of doing business.
Mhm.
There's only so much time in the day. And so
Exactly.
it just starts to give you this like consider like framework through which you can consider, what do I share? Where do I
Mhm.
share it? Do I
Yes.
share it at all?
Yes.
And what kind of life do I want? What do I
Mhm.
envision for myself that's
Mhm.
in alignment with those values
Mhm.
and my truest calling and what actually lights me up? The other really cool thing about it is that when you know your purpose statement, it gives you such permission for rest and self-care.
Mhm.
Because
Mhm.
when you go, I live 15 minutes in my purpose today, I can like pull off to the side of the road and have a picnic now and do
Mhm.
something that lights me up and has nothing to do with my purpose.
Mhm.
It's not work. It is, and it can be active, maybe going
Mhm.
for a run is not in your purpose, but you love the feel of being out on the trails
Mhm.
and moving your body. Great. Then
Yeah.
that's restful now because you're not trying to make it mean something.
Yeah. Yeah. I
It's just
like
the
that.
act of itself keeps you rooted in the present, which
Mhm.
is really powerful stuff.
Yes. Oh, yeah. I love this. This has been so great. I love talking to you.
Well, I love talking to
Oh,
you. We're going to have you on the show because I love your journey and I think it's amazing what you've built here.
Thank
And I want
you.
to hear your story now. I want to like flip the mic.
Let's do it, Carl. All right. Well, Lauren, tell everybody before we transition to three things, tell
Mhm.
everybody how they can connect to you or work with you.
So my name is kind of funny, but you can find me at laurengaggioli.com. And then if you're interested in learning more about the purpose course, bigwhylife.com will take you straight to that page on my site. It's a redirection. And if you want to know more about SEO, organic marketing ecosystem.com. But again, it all lives laurengaggioli.com. That's my home.
And we will make sure that link is in the show notes as well.
Wonderful.
All right, so now we're going to go three things with Lauren. I'm going to ask you three questions, just helps everyone get to know you a little bit better.
Yes.
The first question is a two-parter. How do you start and end the day?
So I start my day with coffee, espresso specifically.
Mhm.
I have little ones, I can't have a routine right now. So often it is a coffee and I was dragged out of bed. Sometimes I go and do a gym class super early in the morning.
Mhm.
That's new to the rotation and I love it. It's really fun.
Mhm.
So I'm happy to be back with that. But
Yeah.
yeah, definitely there's no morning that there is not coffee.
And then what does the ending look like?
Me with a fiction book in bed.
Nice.
So yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
I also
Yeah.
make sure I knit at some point during the day, but I just never know
Mhm.
what pocket of time that's gonna fit into.
I love that because I love reading. Love reading. I love reading fiction books because it's just like it takes you out of
Yes,
like the day and I'm like I'm here for it. And then
yes,
you said you like to knit, I like to do puzzles.
yes. Oh my gosh. Oh, we could have the best little just like quiet
Yes.
downtime, like hanging out, just doing it.
Right?
Yeah, yeah. Puzzles, knitting, reading, it all like
Mhm.
we are the cozy people.
Yeah. Exactly. Like leave me alone. Doing my
Yeah.
puzzle over here.
Yes, I love
Um
that.
And second question is what's a goal or intention that you've set for yourself this year?
Oh, I'm gonna share this because I'm like, and I'm hesitant because what is it? June. I'm worried I'm not gonna hit the mark. I have I love to write, and I have big goals to write a book. I
Mhm.
have four manuscripts right now that are all in various
Mhm.
states of disrepair. Two fiction, two nonfiction.
Okay.
Um, so we'll see. I work a little bit like a scattergun, but what I would
Mhm.
love is to finish at least one of them.
Mhm.
And they're all about halfway done. So, it's just a matter
Yeah.
of leaning in and really starting to spend more time there. So,
Mhm.
once the podcast is out, my hope is that the fall will be very
Awesome.
much writing
Mhm.
intensive.
Awesome. Love that. All right. And the last question is where are you currently finding inspiration?
Mm. I mentioned Broadway earlier. I just got home from a trip to New York and
Oh.
I got to see three spectacular productions, and it just has me so fired up to, if not work in theater again,
Mhm.
experience it more, be more hands on than just a patron. We have a
Mhm.
lovely, vibrant theater community here, and it really feeds my soul.
Yeah.
Um, Very much stands outside my purpose, to be involved in theater, the time of it. We were talking
Mhm.
about time freedom with a 4 and a 6-year-old. It's tricky,
Mhm.
but I just so enjoy it. Got to see
Yeah.
my nephew in Lion King last night. He was
Oh.
Mufasa. He was so spectacular. So like, I just at all levels, I just think it's such a beautiful way to bring stories to people, to
Mhm.
have this like immersive experience. And I'm so grateful to be back post COVID, and
Mhm.
I really look forward to finding my way there
Yes.
and having a way to be involved in a more
Yes.
hands-on fashion, whatever that
Oh,
may look like.
awesome. Love that. All right. So before I let you go, I would like for you to leave the audience with three things you'd like for them to take away from this conversation today.
I think the first is to plant your feet.
Mhm.
Take a moment, take 5 minutes in a quiet room to hear yourself think. No phone, no nothing. And just
Mhm.
like maybe take a moment to just like free write. where you are mentally right now and start to like pull on that thread. If you're feeling untethered to your purpose, if you come to my website, laurengaggioli.com/111, you can get 111 core values to choose from. It will begin the journey of like, here's some words to use, see what resonates with you, what's aspirational, what's not. So see where you are, then get a resource. That would be number 2. Get that resource and really identify the value that you are living right now without
Mhm.
trying, right? Like take it easy on yourself.
Yeah.
And then step 3 is just if you ever feel yourself like overcome or coming out of your body or feeling untethered to your purpose,
Mhm.
once you have sort of that true north of the values, I think start to think about what the ideal vision of your life looks like,
Mhm.
unfettered by reality. you know, what
Mhm.
is that biggest, grandest, or smallest, quietest, most fulfilling dream?
Mhm.
And don't judge yourself, right?
Yeah.
There is no good or bad, but thinking makes it so. That's from Hamlet, and it's one of my favorite lines because I can overthink like the Dickens. So, um, it your passions, your desires, what comes easily, that's not a bad thing. I think a lot of us have been told to work hard, and I think that's a lie. I think we need to work in the right direction. And
Mhm.
when you do that, the the powerful force of your purpose and the flow that comes from that moves you along faster.
Mhm.
It's like stepping into a stream and just letting yourself be carried along. So, yes, you need effort, but I think work hard is a myth.
Mhm.
Um, so really be gentle with yourself as you do this work. It takes time, on the side of life. Like you can't do it when you're in the churn. Um, so be gentle with yourself and remember it already is inside of you. You need some like tools to find it. It's like giving you a shovel instead of giving you a to-do list, right? You're
Mhm.
mining down inside of what already exists. So
Mhm.
take a deep breath and know that it's already there. And you just have to, figure out where it lives and what it looks like and what the words are that brings it to life for you.
Awesome. Oh, love that. Nuggets on a early morning in Seattle.
I love that.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much, Lauren. It has been so great, and you can always come back here in the future.
Thank you so much. It was a lovely conversation. Thank you so much for having me.
Awesome. Stay tuned, everyone. I'll be right back.